What is a sales playbook? Why do we need them? And then perhaps we can go through details of what needs to go within them as well, Aaron.
Sure. Well, sales playbook usually implies here's like a step-by-step system to get the result you want. So a sales playbook, which isn't quite what we're talking about today. Oh, got an invader coming in. A sales playbook would typically say, here's how you run the demo, then here's how you take that to proposal, and here's how you take it to the next step. Or an outbound playbook would be here's kind of like the kind of target you're looking for, and then here's the messaging you may sample email. I tend to look at it something a little bit bigger picture, which is because I work with a lot of more like companies, sales teams and companies, which is how do you get the company to grow? But the principle is the same. So when you're looking at a company, it was just trying to accelerate growth. The first step, second step, third step, fourth step, there's still a playbook for that. The idea of taking companies and repeating the things that help drive fast growth across SaaS companies, a lot of those principles actually are similar company to company and actually team to team and even person to person. So in this case, the playbook to reignite growth really means like a few steps that you can follow to actually get growth to grow faster, right? As a team or for a sales team or as a company.
Sure. And I just double down on this because you said it there, but I don't want to gloss over it. This is going to blow some people's minds. Is it possible? And again, this more tenured sales leaders is going to be obvious, but is it possible to have a step-by-step process that salespeople follow that leads to predictable results?
It totally. Yeah. In fact, you see this all the time and there's basically usually you break it down into two different sections, right? The first is a step-by-step process to fill your funnel.
Sure.
And the second is a step-by-step process to take things from that initial salesperson call or demo through to close.
Sure. Perfect. I just wanted to get the kind of the words from your mouth there of how we can build predictable models for revenue with enough data, with enough action, and enough, I guess, experimentation as well. Cool. So with that, then again, let's make the assumption that we are following somewhat of a playbook. It's either good, bad, it's working, it's not working. That's regardless. We'll put that to one side for a second. But we're following some kind of playbook here. What do we need to do differently moving forward in 2021 now to reignite sales growth? Where perhaps because we can blame things on the economy, whatever it is, the markets, things have perhaps stagnated over the past 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. Well, let's start where it's kind of like in the middle, a little bit in the middle of the playbook. And I take this there's a book that Jason Lemkin and I did called From Impossible to Inevitable. And it's really kind of like four main steps that we're going to look at. So the second step is really, I think, the key lever. And that really is the realization that for most companies, sales teams, and people, lead generation is the thing that's going to drive your growth. Because just to be honest, most teams don't have enough quality leads. Quality, let's use the word appointments, right? You need more meetings, good meetings. Okay, how do you get those? Of course, there are some companies that are getting enough, and their main challenge is growing deal size. Their main challenge might be, more repeatability in the sales process. And, there's all kinds of things, but for the most part, we need more meetings. So it assumes if you get them, you can close them. So now the thing is, if your goal is more meetings, and there's ways to get them in a predictable way, right? We can talk about outbound prospecting. That's one way. Inbound marketing. So lead generation really is the thing that will drive most of your growth meetings. But what we saw last year, it's not just meeting. Like what does it take to get meetings? Biggest problem that people deal with, companies that are trying to grow, is that they're not ready to grow. And things changed. Maybe you weren't growing as fast as you wanted to before. Maybe the market's changed because obviously a little bit of disruption over the last year. That's going to continue this year. So we say is actually the first place to start is nailing your niche, right? It's really going back. Or maybe it's the first time, or maybe you're redoing it. Like I said, kibosh it all and start, which is who's our ideal customer. Mm-hmm. Again, this could be at the company level, it could be at the team level. It even could be at the individual level, like who's my ideal customer? All right, and that really means what kinds of customers have paid the most money, gotten the most value, need me the most, need us the most, and how are they different from the customers where I'm a nice to have, or so for example, here's a nice to have. Let's say you have a SaaS product. People come in, they see the demo, they're like, "That's so cool," and you never hear from them again. Like that's nice to have. So just because they get excited. Right. You got to put yourself in the shoes of buyers, right? For people who are buying things, remember, like, it is a lot of work to select something, to like evaluate, select, and then buy something and then implement. That's a ton of work. How can you make it easier on them? So, who needs you? If it's not something they really need, they're not gonna, it'll just peter out. Something else will take over. So that's why they have to need you. So who are those customers? And then again, key people, who are the buyers? And usually it's pretty common companies sell kind of like one level too low. How can you sell one level higher? So making sure that you can communicate, you identify who the key buyer is, maybe their boss or your buyer and the CFO, and be able to speak both languages. But this is really the empathy of being able to put yourself in the shoes of those key people and understand a bit of their day in the life and what they're dealing with, because that might have changed over the last year too. Like the problems of who your buyers are and their problems might be different. And this is part of that, dancing and shuffling. So it's just going back to, who should I be talking to? What do they care about? How can I speak in their language? Because if you can't do that, you're not going to get more good meetings.